Hello, my name is Braden Stewart. I am a freshman at Braden College. I'm in Communications 101, and today I'll be talking about how homeschoolers are discriminated against in today's modern education system. Homeschooling has only been legal in the United States in all 50 states since 1993. And there have been many that have been against the idea of homeschooling ever since it started gaining traction back in the 80s and 90s and even into today's time. Many people are anti-homeschooling for different reasons. One of them is that because it's not government sponsored, it must not be a good source of education. Another reason is that people just do not understand fully what homeschooling is and therefore have false impressions of it, or only focus on the extreme radical anomalies that happen in the homeschooling world, or others who are like Ruka Hassanen and Rachel Coleman in Oversight Lacking, a periodical article that was just published in June of this year, 2017, that talked about how fundamentalist homeschool groups and religious daycares they believed were not in strict force enough rules and could get away with tax benefits and lax rules because they claim religious freedom, and that because they taught under that, they were not teaching their children properly and were not taking care of the children properly that was in that institution or school. And therefore, they believe that homeschooling should have more strict rules set to it, more government involvement, and should be lessened in its importance and amounts. The problem with these various ideologies against homeschooling is that they mostly focus on the very rare instances where families either do not properly school their children or they take advantage of the system. Because the majority of homeschooling families, as statistics will show later, properly educate their children and set their children up to succeed and follow the rules. And that's an important thing. Homeschooling is legal in all 50 states in the eyes of the United States government and by each state government. And for the Georgia Board of Education, they require a few things specifically to Georgia. Because homeschooling laws are not universal across all 50 states, they do differ slightly based on which state you live in. But for Georgia, requirements are the teacher must be a parent or guardian, you must have 180 days of school, you must submit general information on your homeschooling institution through a declaration of intent every year. You must teach the required credits for each schooling year, specifically high school for high school graduation, like 4 English credits, 4 science, 3 modern language and fine arts, 1 PE, 4 math, 3 social studies, 4 electives, and 23 total credits for graduation from high school in Georgia. And also, they must submit annual progress reports and keep diligent records on what they do, and they must test their child every 3 years after the 3rd grade, at least once. And therefore, if that family is willing to follow those rules and they can teach their children at home through homeschooling, and it is considered a valid option in today's modern education. However, homeschoolers in many cases are not held to the same standards that public school or private school students are held to. I found this to be true in my life as I was going to apply to a college in the area of South Georgia, and they were going to require me to score at least 200 points higher on the SAT than a public school student was, just because I was homeschooled. And there were also several other things, such as more paperwork, and I was going to possibly have to take certain tests to prove what I learned in high school I actually knew, and therefore could back up the grades I was turning in. And there are many other cases of discrimination in today's modern education system. A prominent one that just happened recently, also in June of 2017, was in Jackson County, Kentucky, where the school system there demanded that the parents of homeschooling families and Pacific children that they had called out through packets of paper sent home to the families, that they turn in certain paperwork and identify certain things for their homeschooling organization that were illegal or against the law that was set up in Kentucky against homeschooling regulations. Therefore, the school board that was demanding these things were out of line. But yet they said that if they did not comply in a very short amount of time and give them this information, they were going to take them to court and sue them for family negligence. And Homeschool Legal Defense, a group of lawyers and legislators for every 50 state, they have representatives in every 50 state, who have helped push homeschooling laws to keep families from being discriminated against and get homeschooling legal in all 50 states for all families, took up this case and is currently working on it as we speak. Because what Jackson County School Board has done is against the law. It's discriminating against those families, and they're trying to take advantage of their situation. And that's the sad reality of today's modern culture in the educational realm against homeschooling families. And so why would this happen? Why are people like this towards homeschooling? And it's the fact that people either misunderstand what homeschooling is or have a certain stereotypical idea about homeschoolers, that they just sit around at home and do nothing, or their parents are forcing their children to learn things that they don't want to, and therefore they should not allow to be doing that. But research and studies have proven over the years that homeschool students do better than public and private school students do on major college tests and grades in school. One example is of a 2007 survey that was done by the Homeschool Research Education Institution, that once surveyed, backed up by their 15 years of research previously of data and other things, and data from that year, was that homeschoolers on averaged a 86 percentile composite score on the major college standardized testing. And public school, which what it was compared to in this study, averaged 50th percentile. That's 36 percentile lower on average for the composite overall score than homeschoolers. And it didn't seem to differ either in certain subcategories, like whether they had a certified teacher, the homeschooling group did, or not. In fact, it was just a 1% difference, 87th percentile and 88th percentile, which I find it funny that the one without a certified teacher is higher. Also between boys and girls, it was just a 1% difference, and they were above 80th percentile. And also, whether you were rich or poor, had resources or not, $10,000 income less or $70,000 income and higher, there was only a 4% difference in percentile. In all of these subcategories, homeschoolers scored in the 80th percentile or above in the standardized testing. And this just shows on one of the most major and most important educational scalings, that is testing, that homeschoolers are well prepared and well educated and do better than the public education that is given around the country. And for some people, they are very jealous of this and therefore try to undo what homeschooling has brought about, especially with the rise in popularity of homeschooling. You're seeing more and more homeschoolers that people do not like. They're stemming away from the public education. And even some in the government feel like because it is not governmental control, it must not be the best for the children. Therefore, they are going to be against it. And that's an unfortunate state that is in our country, because clearly by the numbers and through the research over the years, homeschooling students are well prepared in the majority of cases for further education and for college and for the real world. And so how can this be fixed? There needs to be a better understanding of what homeschooling is, how they proceed through their schoolwork and through their day. Secondly, there needs to be a more general understanding and clearing up of the language of the laws in each state and in the national government about how homeschooling is supposed to be held and its standards, and get that out to the general masses so they do not feel like homeschooling is taking advantage of the system, and that they will gain respect through that. And ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to, is that people are going to have to respect the homeschooling option, that it is a legal, proper way to educate your children at home, and it is a beneficial way to educate your children. And I am a product of that, and I can say for sure that my homeschooling has well prepared me educationally for my future and whatever I would want to do. Thank you. Have a good day.